Good morning, everyone. Happy Chanukah. I decided to treat myself, and in honor of Chanukah, I brought myself a brand new watch, and I want to show you my new watch. It's a dreidel watch. That's right. In honor of Chanukah, I got a dreidel watch. Now, a dreidel is a nice game that children play on Chanukah, and the reason they play dreidel is because the Greek armies would go around looking to make sure that children weren't studying Torah because it was forbidden. They wanted to Hellenize the Jews. So the Jewish children would go into hiding to study Torah. And when they saw the Greek armies coming, they had someone on the lookout. They would hide their books and take out these little spinning tops and pretend that they were just playing games. They were just playing the dreidel. But there's many more reasons and explanations to the dreidel game. First of all, the way the game is played is if you get a gimel, you get the whole pot. If you get a hey, you get a half a pot. If you get a nun, you don't do anything. If you get a shin, you put money into the pot. Why? Because in Yiddish, gimel stands for ganz, all, the whole pot. Hey stands for halb, half of the pot. Nun stands for nisht, nothing, you don't get, you don't give. And shin stands for shtel arayin, which means put in. Now, interestingly, in Israel, it's not Nun Gimel Hey Shin Nes Gadol Hayasham, which is what the letters stand for. A great miracle happened there. In Israel, they have a Pei because it says Nes Gadol Hayapo. A great miracle occurred here. But the Bnei Yissaschar commentary gives a very deep explanation to the four letters of the dreidel, and he said the four letters of the dreidel represent the four human drives. The shin stands for seichel, your intellectual drive. The nun stands for nefesh, your spiritual, emotional drive. The gimel stands for guf, your physical, bodily drives. The word guf means a body. And he then goes on to say that the letter hey stands for hakol, everything, which means man's drive to be successful and to achieve and to accomplish and do in this world. And so the four letters represent the four human desires and ambitions and drives. And the idea is that you never know what's going to land. You know, when you spin, which one will be successful, which will not. But the most important thing to remember is that the bottom of the dreidel is we are all four come to one point. That just like when the dreidel is spinning, you can't distinguish one letter from the other. They're all integrated. They all become one. And the same, so too whatever strengths, whatever talents, whatever gifts we may have, whether we're strong in the intellect or in the emotional capacity or in the physical capacity or in the success capacity, we have to integrate it with everything else in our lives for one purpose, which is to utilize those gifts to fulfill God's will in this world, to make this world a better place, like the message of the menorah, to add light. And everyone has their ability, their life circumstances that the dreidel may seem to have fallen on in their favor, but everything can be utilized for that ultimate goal in this world. Because we have to remember where the dreidel is spun from. The dreidel is spun from the top. And the idea is that God is guiding all the affairs of the world, and everything is for one purpose, which is to allow man to fulfill their destiny and purpose and mission in this world for the greater good of all of mankind, and to bring God's light into this world. You know, someone said something very interesting to me the other day. They said the word news, N-E-W-S, stands for north, east, west, and south. News comes from all over the world. You never know which news is coming your way. Like the dreidel, it's spinning. You never know where it's going to fall, what's going to happen, or where. You wake up in the morning, there's no way to predict what's going to happen. Why? Because Hashem is running the world. It's not really in our control. And so the four sides of the dreidel represents the four sides of the world. And like the world which is constantly spinning, the world is turning and spinning. But we have to have faith and trust that Hashem is on top. Hashem is spinning the world, and everything is spinning for a purpose. And there's a reason, there's a mission that we are here to fulfill. And when we see a situation that we could use one of our strengths and one of our talents to utilize, to correct, we have to immediately act. Someone said that this person was praying to God, and he said, God, there's so many problems in the world. Why don't you send some help? And God says, I did send help. I sent you. We are here to be God's ambassadors of light and goodness in this world. And that's the message of Chanukah. There's darkness all around us, unfortunately. But with the light of our soul, the light of the menorah, the light of Judaism, the light of Torah, we could transform all of the darkness and bring light to every dark corner of the world. We are so proud as Jews to be able to be the forces of light and the forces of goodness in this world, especially in a day and age when we see so much anti-Semitism, and we see how the bastions of intellect in our country, the universities, the most premier and prestigious Ivy League universities, have lost their moral compass. They've lost their values. They've lost their decency. And they don't know between light and darkness. How much more as Jews we have to go out and illuminate the darkness with our light, the light of Judaism. There was a rabbi, his name was Hugo Grin, and he was a Holocaust survivor, and he told a story that when he was a teenager, he and his family were rounded up and taken to Auschwitz. And he says, when I was in Auschwitz with my father, on the first night of Chanukah, my father says, Hugo, look what I have. And he takes out a little tin can with butter that he's been collecting from the daily food rations and storing little bits of butter. And he said, tonight's the first night of Chanukah, I made some oil from the butter. And he took a piece of threads from his uniform and made a wick and put it in the butter with the oil. And then he took out a match that he managed to get his hands on. And he said, we're going to light the menorah for the first night of Chanukah here in Auschwitz in the barrack. And Hugo said, I got upset at my father. I said, Dad, how could you do this? We're starving here. We need every morsel of food, every bit of fat, every bit of food and butter. How could you waste it on a little candle? And his father looked at him and said, Hugo, there's one thing Auschwitz taught us, is that man can live many days without food, but man cannot live one moment without light. What we need most of all is our light, our faith in God, our trust in Hashem, our hope and our confidence. That is the light that the world so desperately needs today. And as long as we have that light, we will ultimately prevail over every darkness and every evil, as we have for thousands of years. Have a happy Chanukah.